As a lifestyle medicine physician and a human being myself, I want that. That's what I want. I want to help elevate the health and well-being, for everyone that I come into contact with. And that looks very different for every single person. But how do we live a life of vitality, right? And be able to, whatever it is for you that you want to be able to do in life and experience in life and witness in life, that I feel like I want your health not to be a barrier to achieving whatever that is.
What if the most powerful thing we could do for our health wasn't something we added, but something we remembered? A return to the places that shaped us, the forests, the trails, the wide open skies, the spaces that remind us that we're part of something bigger. Well, for today's guest, Dr. Melissa Sundermann, nature has always been that place. As a lifestyle medicine physician, endurance athlete, and lifelong explorer of the outdoors, she's built a life around that connection. And she's seen the science catch up to what she's felt all along. Time in nature changes us. It lowers our stress, it boosts our immunity, and it brings us back to ourselves. Well, in this episode, we explore how nature is not simply a backdrop to our busy lives, but also a potent evidence-based form of medicine. We talk about the mindset shift that happens when we move outside, how to reconnect when modern life pulls us away, and what it really means to live in rhythm with the natural world. So, whether you're tuning in while lacing up for a trail run, driving toward the mountains, or simply craving a moment of reconnection, this conversation is the perfect way to remind you of what's waiting outside. So let's do the show. All right, Melissa Sundermann. Welcome to the Health Feast. It's such a pleasure to have you here today.
It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with the both of you today.
Yeah, and you just got to meet Poe, and Melissa got.
It's good to meet you, Melissa.
Yeah. Melissa, I don't know if you know this, I saw you spoke at Kaiser Santa Clara, I think
yes.
2 or 3 years ago.
It's been a couple of years. Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah. That's the first time I think I had seen your name, but I wasn't really on LinkedIn that much back then. And I'm laughing because Poe knows, we've multiple guests now have come on because I've met them on LinkedIn.
It is. It's kind of like a dating app for all of us, right?
But that's not how I met you. I saw you speak at Kaiser Santa Clara. I mean, it was virtual, and I was at Kaiser in San Francisco, and the whole talk was on nature as medicine. And I learned so many fascinating things from that talk. I was actually out on a walk. I was out on a hike when I did it. I could feel anyway, I'm excited to have you here. From that moment, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I've gotten to know you through our professional society. I just saw you recently at our conference. And I love that you're just champion of nature and the outdoors. I believe your handle is the Dr. Outdoors,
yes.
Right?
Well, my medical degree is a DO, and
that's right.
I'm Dr. Outdoors. So, thank goodness I didn't get that MD degree. That just wouldn't work as well as the DO degree with Dr. Outdoors.
Yeah, and that's
one never knows. Life just has such an interesting
what would it
journey
be
to it.
if Poe and I usually ask this question at the end, but I tossed this idea out to him, and I think he's game. We asked this question, and I thought it'd be a cool way to start. Imagine you're at our health feast now, so we ask, you're going to the proverbial health feast where everyone's bringing something. They're not bringing a dish. They're bringing their life philosophy or a mindset tip. Something that they live by. And what, Melissa, are you, Dr. Sundermann, Dr. Outdoors? What are you bringing to the health feast?
Yeah, great question. And I think the mindset tip I want to share, and I try my best to live by this every day, it comes from a place of gratitude. And the mindset shift is so often we go through our course of our day and we say, I have to go do this. Then I have to go do that. Then I have to go do this. and a subtle shift to saying, I get to. How that just changes our feeling of gratitude. Instead of saying, I have to go pick up my kids after I round at the hospital, to I get to go pick up my kids, hear how their days are, spend time with them. I have to see, I have to make rounds today on my patients. Oh, I have the privilege and I get to interact and help people feel better. So that shift, that mindset shift, going from I have to I get to, is abundance, right? And comes from a place of gratitude of, wow, like I have to go visit my mom. I get to go visit my mom who's in her 80s and, still flourishing, right? So that is what I'm going to bring to our health feast, of a shift in mindset to a place of gratitude.
I appreciate that. I completely get that too. And I think what I was going to ask is, we'll just dive into this, is like, how does one get to a place like that? And I'm sure this will have to go, you're going to go into like, maybe this, the shift in gratitude for you has been maybe a lifelong of lessons that you've learned throughout your own life experience. But yeah, let's start there. Like, how would you help someone get into that state where they're grateful, for what they have? Because I feel like it starts there, right? Because you can't say you're grateful, but then don't really feel grateful, right?
Yeah. And I think it always has to start small. And we see this with lifestyle medicine and behavioral changes and lifestyle changes, is some people think they just have to be perfect and you absolutely don't. And it's all about small incremental changes of, I like to use the phrase like 1% better. Like, can we strive to be 1% better? Yeah, that seems doable. I don't have to be 100% better, but could I be 1%? And with gratitude, and I'm in my mid 50s now, and believe me, through the course of my life, there's been ups and downs, and it's never a straight, trajectory. And so in those places where you're down, the gratitude is more difficult to find, right? Just because sometimes you can get into a mindset of this is going wrong, or this is not what I wanted to happen. This is not what I expected to happen. So where in that 1% better can you find small but meaningful places of gratitude? Of, I woke up today and I got to see a beautiful sunrise, or I saw a patient today and, I think I made a difference, like a small difference in their life. Or when I was out grocery shopping, when I was checking out, I actually had a really cool, just, 1-minute conversation with the person who was checking me out. Just little things. And, we talk about gratitude journals and, either writing down 3 things, because I think that so often our brains can default to what's wrong or what needs to be better, and to intentionally take that moment to pause and think about what actually is good right now. What's good. And, for me, and we'll, I'm sure, get more into nature. I think that is a place where we can find beauty. You can find beauty, often pretty easily if we take a moment to pause and look what's around us. Right. And Rack knows I love to run and jog and hike and walk out in nature. And that's, something I do pretty much on a regular basis. And so this morning I was out there, and I live in Michigan. It's cold now. So it was about, I think the real feel was 15 degrees. So I was bundled up, but, I was running and I was by myself, but I saw deer and I saw cardinals and I saw bunny rabbits and, just beauty surrounding me. I was full of gratitude just for that, right? Not really intentional, but I was just aware.
Melissa, what's the coldest weather you've run in?
Definitely real feel of like probably -20. And, my quote is, there's no bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. However, I gave a talk yesterday, a webinar to the Sri Lankan lifestyle medicine organization. And so they have the opposite, where they're like, it is so hot. I said, well, okay. Yeah. Where I live, we just add more layers. In your area, probably need to pick times of day when the sun is not at its peak. So when I run in that cold of weather, I actually have run in like ski goggles. I've got a balaclava. I have heating packs in my hands and on my feet, and I have Gore-Tex shoes, and I have the right equipment, right? So I can get out there and still be safe. And I've got yak tracks for my running shoes, so I've got little spikes so I don't slip on the ice, and I'm prepared for any kind of weather.
Huh. How does one become the doctor outdoors? Was that part of your upbringing, just being out in nature? Or I'm curious, like, where this passion for being outside and outdoor activity came from.
Yeah, another good question. And I grew up, we were somewhat outdoorsy. I think my mom's idea of camping is probably a Holiday Inn. So we never did anything like that. But we went cross-country skiing and downhill skiing. I think it wasn't until I was in college that I started, I took up mountain biking, and I would, take trips to national parks, and just felt this connection, and then got into medical school, and running for me became a way to relieve stress. I actually grew up as a ballet dancer, so I didn't, people who know that I love to run are like, oh, you must have done this your whole life. I'm like, no, I didn't start till like really after college and medical school, because I was a ballet dancer. And it just was a way for me to relieve stress, to feel my best self, and just connect, my mindful, my active meditation. And so it became really important to me of my self-care routine of moving my body, and preferably outdoors. I have been on treadmills before, but I'm not very good on treadmills. I survive like 10 minutes and I'm like, ah! But if you put me outdoors, then I'm much better. From about college on, I just felt like this was really important, sort of a non-negotiable to my own mental well-being, is to get outdoors and move my body, or just get outdoors. And I just had this, right? I knew this was important to me. And it wasn't until probably, maybe 4 years ago that I was like, oh, this is really important to me. And maybe this could be helpful and important to others. And so in 2022, I submitted an abstract proposal to speak at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine annual conference. And I was like, I don't know about this, I'm going to talk about nature. And it was accepted. And the funny story is, well, kind of funny and nerve-wracking, was that when I got the agenda and I showed up to the conference, I realized that I was going to be on the big stage. And we get 2,000, 2,500 people who attend this conference. And my talk was immediately following Dr. Dean Ornish and T. Colin Campbell, who, if you follow lifestyle medicine, they're like the two biggest luminaries and pioneers of lifestyle medicine. And right after that was coming Dr. Outdoors on stage. And I took my deep breaths in the back of the stage. And so I gave my talk. And what was a new experience for me was that I had people coming up in line to come up to me afterwards. And really the take home for me was these are a whole auditorium full of really, really brilliant minds, clinicians, people in the healthcare field, researchers. And people were saying, I had no idea. This was such an innovative talk. And we know that nature and connection to nature stems, centuries ago, and Ayurveda is very connected with nature. So this is not new. However, in today's society with technology and screens and game systems and phones, we've become so disconnected that this information seems new. And so I was inspired by that, and how many people felt that they were interested in this, and there was a need for further education, both in our medical community and beyond, that I got some support, and I'm the founding chair of the Nature as Medicine subcommittee for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So we've been going strong for year and a half, where we meet every month and bring in guest speakers from all over the world to talk about nature's medicine in different capacities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I need to join that.
You
I need to join that.
absolutely should.
I need to join that.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And the beauty of nature, and there, as I give my talks and I talk about just, there's so many negative effects to, so many medications that we take, and my nature's medicine pill, in quotes, most of the benefits are going to be positive benefits. Of course, we have to be worried about, air quality or extreme temperatures or tick bites or poison ivy, but the majority of the time it's going to be positive. And everyone loves nature. Well, pretty much. I want people to love the nature. And, when you talk about, I'm sure you have guests who talk about nutrition and, there's so many nuances and people get very, very heated about,
right.
their own opinion and even what's the right type of physical activity. Whereas Dr. Outdoors can say, just get outdoors, experience.
That's not controversial.
I know.
Yeah.
I have the best job in the world to be Dr. Outdoors.
Nobody disagrees that it's good to get outdoors.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've had, I don't know if you're familiar with Michelle Seeger.
Oh, yeah.
University of
from the
Michigan.
University of Michigan. Yes.
Yeah. So we had her on and we had this interesting conversation about the is medicine framing.
Yeah.
And she said it's useful among colleagues and like among clinicians, but patient facing, like using the word medicine.
Yeah.
Because you said you got into all of this because you realized very early on that it helps you relieve stress. That it feels, and you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's what her general premise is like, we should be selling it feels good.
Yeah.
And the word medicine doesn't have that connotation to people.
I hear what you're saying. And I'm talking about Michelle's work because she's incredible. I think that even when we talk about nuances of words, the term exercise can also have that connotation, whereas movement doesn't, right?
Totally.
To move our body, that should bring joy. Whereas some people, if you say exercise, they immediately think about a gym and it's boring and it smells and it's hard and I don't belong there. So I think that that is a really good point. And medicine seems so clinical. When I think about, we've coined the term nature as medicine. I think about it more in that larger healing capacity, right? Rather than this this thing that's so clinical and clinically oriented. So, nature as wellness or, something
as a therapy, nature as a therapy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of my talks that I have some upcoming talks and the sort of, it's the therapeutic benefit of the great outdoors is how I frame it. Right. So I am using more of that just therapeutic rather than coining that as just under the medical clinical.
No, and to be clear, I think like when you and I talk, or when we talk about it, like it makes sense to say those words, but I also hear you, like the word medicine has been co-opted to mean pill.
Yes.
But actually in its true sense, it was this like healing art. Yeah.
And I think the Michelle's point is well taken in that we want to frame this to be accessible, relevant, achievable to all, right? To medical, non-medical, every human being, right? That's what I want to bring my message to. And so we don't want to turn off any audiences to think, she's prescribing something clinical to me, that we just, any way we can take away any barriers, is the best thing that I want.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about, like, we're talking about nature, and I'm assuming that it's like my wife and I and my kids, we love to go to the ocean, like wherever where the water hits hits the side of the mountain, and we just sit out there. We don't hear anything but the waves. Yeah. Is that the kind of the same type of idea here?
Absolutely. So when you look at we talk about green spaces, we talk about blue spaces. If you go to the desert, that's brown spaces, or if you're now we've got snow here in Michigan, we have white spaces. So we talk about all of those different colored spaces. And to me, anytime you're outdoors, that is beneficial. And even, I now include research about virtual reality nature, because we know that sometimes you can't get outdoors, right? Maybe it's because the air quality is poor. Maybe it's because you don't live in a safe area. Maybe it's because you have a disability that doesn't allow you to go for a hike outdoors, or you're sick. What can you do in terms of nature exposure? And there's some great studies that show that even listening to bird song, right, can reduce feelings of anxiety and reduce feelings of paranoia. There was a fascinating study done in the mid 80s looking at patients who had just had their gallbladder removed. So we call that post-cholecystectomy. So just had their gallbladder removed. Small study. There's about 64 patients. Half of they all had windows, private rooms. So half of the patients had a window looking at some form of nature, whether that was a courtyard or a tree or some flowers. And the other half, their window looked at a brick building, like just looked at another building. What they found were the patients who were looking at nature had shorter lengths of stay, meaning they didn't require as many days in the hospital after their surgery. They required less pain medication, and the nurses said that they behaved better, or were, had better favorable comments from the nursing staff. So that's just by looking at nature. So I think it's always important when I say, yes, if you can get outdoors, there's phytoncides from green spaces and blue spaces and actually being present. However, we can get benefits of just listening to nature or viewing nature. And, there's some studies going on right now with people in nursing homes who can't get outdoors and actually using virtual reality goggles to be able to feel like they're in nature, and seeing some good outcomes with that. The research in green spaces seems to be there's more studies on green spaces than there are blue spaces, but that does not mean that green spaces are better than blue spaces. I think equally, they are equally important and equally beneficial. And it's interesting because we ask people, what do you prefer, green spaces or blue spaces? And the majority of the time it's like, both.
Right.
If you're, living in California or in Florida and you've got, the ability to connect with, the ocean or large bodies of water. I live in Michigan. We have some beautiful Great Lakes here. Or other people who live in Colorado are like, I'm a mountain person and I love to go climb up mountains and be in forests. So I think it's maybe sometimes like, the area that's more conducive to access to that form of nature.
You mentioned something in passing, and I think is it phytoncides? So you said
Phytoncides. Yeah.
Phytoncides.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the things I learned when she spoke. Can you describe that?
Yeah.
This is so fascinating to me.
So phyton, Phyton, means plant. So when we're talking about the benefits of getting eating plants in your dietary pattern, we talk about phytonutrients. So phyton, plant, side means sidal, antibacterial. Put that together, plant, sidal, antibacterial, healing. Anything that is living and green, trees, plants, shrubs, bushes, emit these phytoncides. They are organic volatile compounds. And the reason why they emit them is to protect themselves from getting sick. The tree emits this so that it won't get sick, so it can grow and spawn and flourish. When we are around green spaces, these green living creatures, we inhale those phytoncides ourselves. And then we get those benefits. And there was a cool study done by Dr. King Lee, and he is one of the most prolific researchers and really the OG of Shinrin-yoku and forest bathing studies. So he did a study where, very small study, but 12 subjects, they each had their own hotel room, and they slept in this hotel room for 3 nights. Half of the rooms were rigged to emit hinoki oil from cypress trees. So basically the rooms were infusing phytoncides into the rooms. And the other 6 rooms emitted to nothing. So after 3 days, the subjects came out and they took blood samples and they measured something called natural killer cell activity. And natural killer cells are involved in our immune system and inflammation. So the higher the natural killer cell activity, the more you're going to be able to fight off infections, the more you're going to be able to reduce inflammation. The 6 subjects that were inhaling those phytoncides had a 20% higher level of natural killer cell activity than the control group that were not inhaling. So these phytoncides are really good for our immune system. They help us with our concentration. They help us to feel more refreshed. And really that ability that some of the studies have done is if you were to go outside today, that natural killer cell boost will last up to 30 days from baseline. So when I talk about my favorite, nature, just when I prescribe nature, I say we give medications and they usually have a pretty short half-life, meaning that you need to take them every day or sometimes twice a day or 3 times a day. I say my nature pill, again in quotes, if you go outside today, those positive effects are going to last for up to 30 days. So it has a very, very long half-life of duration.
Wow.
Yeah. Another fun fact, I'll let you know so you can start throwing these terms around. So when it's rained outside and you go outside and you go, oh, I can smell that it's just rained, right? You could get that smell. That smell is actually called petrichor. And petrichor, the smell develops because there's microbes in the soil. When the water hits the soil, it releases a volatile organic compound called geosmin, Geosmin. And when that geosmin evaporates, then we get this smell called petrichor. So, fun fact that you can throw around on your next trivia night.
I'm thinking a lot about COVID because, the gym closed, and I remember I wouldn't go outside that much before COVID.
Yeah.
Now I go outside all the time.
Yeah.
I think it was a juxtaposition of that, and then I heard your talk, and then I realized how good I feel when I'm outside. And then you start to learn why, there's probably all these other things going on that we don't even understand yet.
Right. And that's what
really
our research
cool.
is really showing. And, other studies have shown that, let me get to the nature dose, because people are probably listening to me thinking, oh, God, she spends all day outdoors. And I don't. I wish I could. So the nature dose, they've done some studies to look at what is that sweet spot where we get the most benefits. And it's about 20 minutes per day. So it's not crazy. And just like when we talk about movement, how we might have, we recommend about 30 minutes of moderate intensity movement per day. And you can break that up into bite-sized bits. Same thing with nature dose. So if you could get 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, that's fine. But you want to really aim for about 20 minutes per day. And getting out in the morning, we're learning more and more about early morning sunlight exposure. And that would be, from the time the sun is coming up till about 9 or 10 a.m. If you can get outside without wearing any sunglasses. And at that time of day, you shouldn't, have to worry too much about getting sunburn or having any adverse effects from the sunlight, is that getting outdoors for about preferably 10 to 20 minutes can help align your circadian rhythm. So our bodies and our brains really like to have a schedule. And our schedule is that we're up, during the daylight, and then we're, settling down at nighttime. And obviously, if you're a shift worker and you don't have that ability, your circadian rhythm is a little bit different. So when going out early morning sunlight without wearing sunglasses helps to align our circadian rhythm, helps to get our melatonin clock synchronized as well. Melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland, and that helps us to sleep. Also, getting out in the early morning sunlight will elevate our serotonin hormone, and serotonin is what we call our happy hormone. So that can elevate our serotonin level, and then also helps regulate our cortisol level. And cortisol is a stress hormone. So I, talk to my patients and say, if you can get outdoors for, 10 or 15 minutes, and it'd be great if you, are moving your body at the time, but you don't have to. So maybe if you bring a cup of tea outside, or you have your morning coffee outside, or you're, playing fetch with your dog, or you're journaling outside, just trying to get that early morning sunlight is really beneficial.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to ask you about that, because it's funny, you said 20 minutes. I wasn't sure what the dose was, but on my regular self-care routine, as of late, has just been a half hour of just walking.
Yeah.
That's it. And I try to get up early in the morning, not when sometimes it's when the sun's out, but consistently I've been able to get up around 6 and just go for just a nice little stroll. And man, the benefits of that are just.
Yes, absolutely.
You really, like you said, it's sort of like that active meditation.
Yeah.
And I do notice that it does help with my sleeping, even though it's only a half hour, but I just noticed that by 9 o'clock, I feel like it's time to go to bed, which is not normally my routine. I'm a late person, but because I've been doing it just for a half hour, and it's I know I've been doing it for so long now that when I don't do it, it's something's off. I feel like I have to get it done at some point in my day,
right.
So
right. Yeah. And I think that's what as being lifestyle medicine physicians, what our hope is that once you start implementing these lifestyle behaviors, why people continue doing them is when it's reinforced, because like you said, Poe, I feel better after I do it.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping better.
Yeah.
What? Oh, this is something, what I'm doing for my body and my mind and my spirit is actually working, and I'm going to continue doing it. It's that reinforcing that positive behavior because you're feeling the benefits. And I think, when we're talking about behavior change and how difficult behavior change can be, and we, get to the why, right? And oftentimes people are so wired for the quick fix, right? Oh, I want to lose 5 pounds. Oh, I want to fit into this dress. Oh, I want to, look good for this. But that's not really sustainable and doesn't get to the true why, and our true why of like, I really hope I can sleep better. I hope I have more energy during the day. I hope that, I feel well enough to, go to the playground with my kids and play with them. Those, once we're able to notice that we feel better doing that, then we're going to continue those positive behavior changes. And then, like you said, like when you don't do it, you're like, oh, something feels off, right?
Yeah.
I want to do this. It's not that I feel like I have to do this.
To do it.
I'm choosing to do this because
it's a
feels
get
better.
to, for sure.
And talking about being outdoors, and I want to share a little exercise that I share with individuals, and it can be done, doesn't matter how old you are. You can do it if you're 2 years old. You can do it if you're 99 years old. And it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's using all 5 of your senses and engaging in nature. And it's a mindfulness practice. And so when we talk about mindfulness, and I've done training in mind-body medicine, just like many other things that like exercise can seem intimidating, or, meditation sometimes can seem intimidating to some individuals. Like how can I not think about anything for a half an hour? But if we talk about mindfulness in the context of being present, a really good way to be present is in nature. And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is going through all 5 senses and connecting to nature. So stepping outside and first focusing, like, maybe tomorrow when you're going for your morning walk, focus on 5 things that you can see and look all around. If it's, hopefully it'll be light out, or if it's not, maybe you got a headlamp that you can see. But looking up at the clouds, seeing like what kind of cloud formations, or looking, at the ground, are there leaves on the ground? Are there flowers in bloom? Are you seeing any animals? And then shift to 4 things that you can touch, and actually like grab things and touch them, like engage that tactile sense. So maybe feeling the moss on a rock, or picking up a leaf and feeling ridges on that leaf. And then shift to 3 things that you can hear, and actually like really listen. Are you hearing different kind of bird song and like listening to them talk to each other? Are you hearing the leaves rustling in the wind? And then shift to 2 things you can smell. Like, are you smelling anything? And then I say maybe 1 thing you can taste, right? We don't want you to eat anything that's going to cause adverse effects. But that's something that, even for kids, this is a really good way to practice mindfulness without really realizing you're practicing mindfulness. It's just being aware of our surroundings and being present. So that's just a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear,
2
things you can smell,
and then
one thing maybe.
1 thing you can taste.
Which could be water.
Yeah. In my case, I'm like, I can taste some snow. I can taste some snow.
Or your own water, your own bottled water. Yeah,
yes, your own bottled water. There you go. That's right.
No, I think that's really cool though, because you're also practicing like being grateful if you can take it to the next level, right? It's like, oh wow, like I'm actually grateful that I'm able to walk, or taking that deep breath, smelling like, wow, I can, and then it goes back to practicing that gratitude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think nature is also, when we talk about experiencing awe, right? The feeling of awe. The feeling of awe is just being aware of how small we are, and in the context of just our larger world. And nature is just one of those places that all you need to do is, like, I was just taking a walk with my husband last night and with our dogs, and the sun was setting, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at the beautiful colors that are coming through the sky. And you feel like this is just a gift. It's a gift for me. Well, everyone else can see it around me, but you have that experience of like how this is so beautiful. And we can get that feeling of awe when, we have that connection with other humans, right? Or you're just like, you can just feel that deep within inside of yourself. And it is connected to gratitude. It's connected to community. But nature is just really one of those places that you're speechless. You're speechless when you just witness the miracles that occur in nature.
Yeah, I want to like relate to that, because like there's times when I'm walking and it's early morning and the sun's getting ready to rise, and you're looking up and like you see the way the clouds are busting through and the sun rays are coming, and it's like in that moment, that's the only time you're going to get that. It'll never look like that again. So in a way, 100% it is a gift in that sense. But yeah, you mentioned something about spirituality too. And I choose to, like, when I am doing my walk, it's also my time to really, like, connect with my higher power, when I'm doing my walk. So it adds that element of being present and,
Yes.
So yes, I can see why this is definitely, a medicine for folks, right? Because I was telling Rock about it when we were talking about having you on today, that I'm starting to see these memes online about doctors in Japan are prescribing patients to go out into the wilderness or into the forest as part of their therapy.
Yes. So there's a whole field of ecotherapy, and some of our guests who have come and spoken to us for the Nature's Medicine subcommittee, they do, forest therapy. So some people are, working with veterans who have had PTSD from their time on the field and in war, and they've found, they come back and they are, in therapy, and then all of a sudden they do this ecotherapy. And it's like this breakthrough happens of, like, I've been in therapy for years and I've never had such a breakthrough as I did doing a lot of times the ecotherapy also will have a group component to it. So sharing and experiencing. So there's something that gets unlocked, like when we're in nature, like it just, I have been on hikes before, and I have colleagues that, in fact, one of my colleagues, he's not in medicine. He's actually in the business realm, Bart Foster, and he wrote the book Business Outside. And what he does is he'll work with groups of, like, the C-suite, right? So the C-suite being the CEO, the COO, the CFO, who normally when they meet, they're in their three-piece suits and they're in a boardroom and, trying to come up with creative strategy and, what are we going to do? So he takes them out for hikes, right? Says, put on some hiking shoes and some shorts and we're going out, and we're just going to hike some mountains. And what he's found is that all of a sudden something is unlocked and these ideas come and they collaborate and they're more creative and more productive. So there is something that truly our brains, like, just open up, and that connection that we feel. And that connection that we feel is actually, the term for it is biophilia. And it was originally coined by a social psychologist, Eric Fromm, but most of us are aware of biophilia from E.O. Wilson, who wrote a lot about biophilia. And biophilia is simply the innate connection to all things living. And so when we remember that we are nature, right, we connect our need to connect with all things living. So whether that's a plant, whether that's an animal, that's, just all living creatures. And I think my opinion is that we instinctively know this as kids. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so I grew up in the 70s, right? So this is way before we had any screens, or we didn't have a television, but all I wanted to do when I was little was dig in dirt, look for worms, catch, caterpillars, get fireflies, build tree forts, like make my own little, like, we had a tree fort and we'd spend hours up there, because it's just, that's where, like, go through creeks and, skip rocks. And like, we knew that, like, that's how we were programmed, is like, we spend time with nature and we're one with nature. And then life happens and technology happens and, we get away from that. And then we think, God, something's just missing. And, not that nature fixes everything, but I think the more that we can get back to that connection, and we talk about planetary health nowadays, and the more that we connect with nature, and we're probably going to want to take care of our planet as well. So it translates beyond just, our own well-being. We're looking at, our planetary health and our collective well-being.
Yeah, we're going to ask about, is there any evidence or research with depression, with like using nature as, like, helping either manage depression or prevent depressive symptoms?
Absolutely. Yeah. So research, in fact, there was a study done in Finland that looked at people and visiting green spaces. Again, blue spaces are equally important, but a lot of the research just happens, more robust research on green spaces. And they found that individuals who visited green spaces more often, about 3 to 4 times per week, they found that they had lower requirements for asthma medications, blood pressure medications, and mental health medications, meaning that we talk about in lifestyle medicine being able to de-prescribe, right? Responsibly, right? We'd never just stop medications, but that patients are doing better in terms of their requirement. And just by being outdoors, we do see a boost in serotonin levels. We see a decrease in cortisol levels. Those studies have been done. So absolutely can improve our own well-being.
I've experienced it in my own life. I think, you have too. You're describing these walks.
Yeah.
They sound so therapeutic. I myself now regularly go out in nature. I always correlated with the movement. I was like, oh, I'm getting all this movement. That's usually what I'm doing.
Right.
But I haven't really emphasized as much that I'm actually doing a lot of these things in nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, and since we're on the topic, I appreciate you bringing it up. But Rock, I was in a pretty depressed state due to some injuries that I sustained, and I recently had the opportunity to go back to the islands. I'm a Pacific Islander. I'm Samoan, and that completely just opened my eyes to like that's exactly what you're talking about. Is like I don't know. It's being in that space, being in that place. I mean, so I work in corrections, right? And it's concrete everywhere, right? And there is no green space in these spaces, right? Or even like spaces of where it feels like you're connected to, the earth or nature. So a lot of my coworkers and partners and people that I work with, a lot of them, they enjoy going camping and like, and I never, after talking to you now, like it all makes sense. This is where everybody feels connected. And some people like go camping and and then some people like going to the ocean, and like me, being that I'm Pacific Islander, there is a connectedness to the water. So when I went back, it completely just, that was exactly what I needed to sort of overcome. Now, it's a practice, right? So it's not like it's just done. But that was the catalyst, was going back to the islands and seeing life there. Using the five senses, not knowing that I was using the five, like breathing in the air, walking around barefooted on the grass, tasting the flavors. It was a very like spiritual thing for me.
Absolutely.
Did you do? Tasting was probably
100%. Coconut. I was drinking the coconut
There's
water.
A lot of things you can.
There's just so many. And about what I was like, you telling me about going over the five senses. It was like, man, I was doing that while I was there, and that was all the therapy that I needed in that moment to sort of.
And talking about like it just makes me think about institutions. You work in corrections, but even institutions, workplaces, of buildings, of hospitals, and how bringing back this biophilia and biophilic design, right? You think about in corrections and behavior and things that influence behavior. And gosh, what if people had access to a tree canopy or a garden with that? And then obviously like food that's served. And Rock and I do a lot of work in terms of food and mood and food and disease prevention and things like that. And I was going to share just
how might it change the energy? Like,
exactly.
In the prison, like, I don't even know if that would be.
Well, I was going to share a study, and this isn't to deal with prison, but it was actually with little kids. It was called the Play and Grow study. And it was kids, and they were involved in a 10-week program. It was called Play and Grow. And they were just like basically told, get outside, get dirty, play in dirt. And after those 10 weeks, they, did all these qualitative and quantitative assessments, and they found that they had a more, substantial connection to nature. That makes sense. But they also found that this is kids, but they had decreased perceived stress and anger. And also they took poop samples, they took fecal samples, and they found that there was a shift in the gut microbiome. So they found that there was more fecal serotonin, meaning that the gut microbiome was producing more serotonin. And we know that about 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut microbiome. And so just by being outdoors, like these kids who maybe were throwing temper tantrums, like they were not as angry. And then they actually had like shifts in their gut microbiome, we know the gut microbiome, as Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. So the gut microbiome is really, we're learning more and more about how important it is to optimizing health and well-being. So it would be very interesting, Poe, maybe like, you you can be the impetus to getting some kind of grant or something like that of just like some biophilia, like how would that translate to behavior of allowing, or encouraging people in these institutions to be able to feel that, right? Or practicing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like, what would that, what would that do?
Right. And even when you were talking about earlier about the study inside the room, you said that there was like
the rooms, in the hospital, right?
That's what I thought of was like, wow, institutions, it's very, St. Quentin is definitely ahead of its time because they're turning that the sort of like the policies around. They do have like areas for all the different religious practices that have a little green, like they have like grass and trees, but it's definitely moving towards that direction. I think St. Quentin is like the forefront of it all. They're definitely changing the way.
Yeah, and even like some of the hospital. Rehabilitation. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we have a big hospital system at the University of Michigan, and they did get some money from some donors to create something called these recharge rooms, and they were implemented for staff, for nursing and physicians and house staff, where they can, and it's virtual reality nature, but beautiful, beautiful technology in rooms where you can go and we've got like a whole wall that's the whole screen. And so you can plug in a blue space and you can just sit there and you feel like you're at the beach and you can hear the waves and you can see the waves, or you can plug in that you want to be in a forest. So the birds will be flying by and you hear like you can see the trees shifting. So again, just like if we can't get outdoors, how can we invite, the outdoors inside of ourselves? And also I've had colleagues, another colleague, Becca Katz, who is a educator, and her nonprofit is Good Natured Learning. So she's trying to bring nature into the classroom and the classroom into nature. Again, how, that this can help facilitate learning and can facilitate our ability to learn. So we're seeing nature in many of these different sectors, and hopefully we'll continue to see it grow. No pun intended, grow.
Okay, now I understand. So Melissa has been championing nature becoming the 7th pillar of lifestyle medicine.
Yeah.
And it never, honestly, I would hear that and I'd be like, well, there's lots of things I'm interested in. Those should be the pillars of lifestyle medicine. But now, as I'm hearing this, no, I see it. I mean, nature is, it has some effect beyond these other pillars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's a power to it that it comes from the uniqueness that it of what it creates.
I think so. Yeah. I think that, I keep talking about it, and the powers to be in ACLM are very aware of my campaign. It also, when we look at one of our pillars of lifestyle medicine is positive social connection. So if, we can put it under that umbrella of positive connection, right? Connecting to nature. I'm still going to champion to be a 7th pillar. But I think for right now, we'll sort of put it under this connection umbrella.
That reminds me of someone a couple of years ago told me, and now I've adopted this, that one of the pillars, Po, is avoiding risky substances. And he said, I include processed food and screens on that list.
Yes.
And which is so true, but then I hadn't I'd only thought of substances.
Yeah.
But those are substances.
100%.
Yeah. And I think that when I do some coaching, I like to expand that as not just risky substances, but risky behaviors, or reframing it as behaviors that we do to buffer, right? To escape. So that can be substances that we commonly think about of alcohol, tobacco, drug use, screens, but it could also be, behaviors that don't serve us, whether that's compulsive shopping or compulsive gambling or compulsive exercising, just things that behaviors or substances that we use to escape or buffer from, connecting with our true self and our true emotions.
Numb. I like to say numb.
Oh yeah.
Those things.
Numbing.
Numb.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. To feel numb.
The numbingness of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like, that's a good one. Adding the screen time. I had an opportunity over the weekend. It was one of my nephew's birthdays, and we got access to a gym, like a a school gym, and my nephew had his party there, and all the relatives came over and they were playing. And I was like, wow, this is probably one of the best things we ever did, because it was inside, it was indoors.
Yep.
So it was kind of
Yep.
cold out here where
Yep.
I'm at, but not Michigan cold, but cold enough to be inside, where everybody was playing basketball, volleyball, like just sitting watching. Like I was like, man, nobody was
Right.
because a lot of times you get a little family gathering and
Yes.
nobody's even talking to each other,
Yeah.
just doing this. And I'm like, wow. And then to see all my nieces and nephews and cousins and everybody just playing, laughing,
playing.
smiling, I was like,
Right. And I think
That's-
that at any age, we need to continue to play.
play.
My kids are in their 20s and they both live in Denver and they're home visiting for the holidays. And we've been playing pickleball. It's been a blast, just to get out there. And
oh, wow.
my husband's played, but the three of us really haven't played at all. So it's just having fun and being playful. It doesn't matter if you're a kid, adult, at any age of just connecting, having fun, trying something new, and just
And
incorporating
challenging
play.
yourself.
Challenging,
Well, just let's talk about that, because you are quite like an athlete. I don't even know. Like, can you share with Poe and our listeners, like what are some of the things you've done?
Well, I am by no means.
And you started running. You said you started running like in med school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm one of these people who I love a challenge and having goal oriented. And I took up running. And like I said, it was really for stress management. And then I found out about this thing called the Boston Marathon. And I was like, well, I want to do that. And then I found out in 1996, this ages me, it was going to be the 100th anniversary of the Boston Marathon. I thought, well, how cool would that be? I want to do that. And then I found out, you actually have to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So I said, okay. So this was my second year of medical school. And there was two guys in my class. And I said, I want to try to qualify for the Boston Marathon. Will you guys train for a marathon with me? So we did. And we ran the Columbus, Ohio Marathon. And I ended up qualifying for Boston.
Wow.
And 1996. And ran my first Boston Marathon in 1996. And I'm actually was born in Massachusetts and I have a lot of family there. So it was really special. And the Boston Marathon is it's incredible. It's iconic. It's just really, really powerful. And so I was like, I maybe I could be an okay runner. And really for me, running has just been, it's really such a gift to me. I love it. I'm much, much slower than I used to be and I don't care because it's just, I feel good when I just want to be able to keep doing it. So I am doing my 12th Boston Marathon this April. And what's really special is that my daughter, who's 23, she was a collegiate diver. She actually was a very, very good Division I. She dove for the University of Michigan, and she was a 10-meter platform diver. So like 30 feet on the ground, off the ground. Wow. And after she graduated from college and she's at Dover now, she doesn't dive anymore. She's a Dover. She took up running. And so she was able to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So we are going to run the Boston Marathon together, which is going to be really, really special.
Wow.
And then along the way, someone said, you want to do a triathlon? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so I started off I started off by doing sprint triathlons. And then I heard about something called an Ironman triathlon. And I said, well, that sounds pretty cool. I think I want to try to do one of those. And, I have much respect because I did a lot of building up to it because a full Ironman triathlon is swimming, 2.4 miles, biking, 112 miles, and then running a full marathon of 26.2. Yes. And people say, did you do that in one day? And I said, yeah, you do that in one day. And I was fortunate enough to be able to, where I live, there was, I had two mentors that coached and really mentored me. And so I've done 3 full Ironmans and I've done several halves and others. And so now I'm 54. I'm not getting any faster. I've set my PRs, which I'm very proud of. And now I look back and I'm like, dang, that was pretty good. But so what I enjoy doing now is I love to pace, and being a pacer means that I do pacing for running races. That someone who maybe is doing their first 5K or they're doing their first half marathon or they're doing their first full marathon, they want to make sure they don't go out too fast. They want to know that they're going to be steady and They just want someone to sort of take them under their wing and just guide them. So that's what I enjoy doing now. I love to pace marathons. And this April, I'm going to have the opportunity to pace the Milan, Italy marathon.
Wow.
I've been an experienced pacer at marathons, and I was pacing a marathon this fall. A woman who was pacing with me was from Milan. And afterwards she said, "You're very good at this." And I said, well, my Instagram, I have 2 Instagram handles. I said, one of them is Motivator Melissa. And I really enjoy motivating others to live their best life, whether that's through the pillars of lifestyle medicine or whether that's getting out there and crossing a finish line, whatever that is in life, of just, challenging yourself and digging deep and not giving in. And, when I pace and, the whole time I'm, whether it's a 5K or a marathon, of like inspiring people to do their best, right? And when they think they can't keep going, I'm like, yes, you can. Like, we can do this. And seeing them accomplish a goal that they didn't know was possible within them, it's such a gift to be able to witness that and be a part of it. So that's what I really, that's what gets me going these days.
That's amazing.
That is, man, tip my hat off. Ironmans are no joke.
No, they're not.
Wow. This is some Health Feast trivia. You're the 3rd Ironman triathlete we've had on the show.
Yeah, who else? Who else is
Scott? Do you know Scott Fulton?
Oh yeah, I know Scott very well. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then Tim Kaufman.
Yes, Tim just did, like, he's tried a couple times, but he lasted. I was following him and tracking him, and I was so happy that he was able to finish the time. That's really exciting.
Yeah, of course you're connected with all these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. This is just a quick question that's on this for Ironmans, right? I've come across people that have done it. When you're whether you're in the swimming phase, or the running, or or the cycling or the running. Yeah. What is your short-term goal when you're in the active, because I know you
break it up, right? You break it up. And for some of the swims, it's like you sometimes have like a turnaround point, or you have these big, huge buoys that help guide you on the course and say, okay, I just have to get to the next buoy. I just have to get to the next buoy. And then it becomes like aid stations. Like, I just have to get to the next aid station. Yeah. Or, okay, sometimes I'll have mile markers for the bike, like every 5 or 10. Yes, you break it up into those little things. Or fueling is also like, really important of how to fuel your body. And it's like, okay, all right, I just have to get to the next aid station and I'm going to get a slice of orange. And it's like amazing how some of these things, like when you break it up,
forward to it.
Like these things that you don't normally think are so incredible tasting. And I have to say, when I'm doing like things like that, like I'm really 90% of the time, my dietary pattern is really good. However, when you're like doing an endurance thing, I'll share this. Like, I hope I don't get in trouble as a lifestyle medicine physician. I was pacing a marathon last spring, and this is a great marathon. It's in northern Michigan. It's beautiful. It's along the lake, and they'll have a official aid station. But then sometimes families come out and they create their own.
Oh yeah.
And I'm at like mile 18, and I'm pacing, so like I've got to keep I got to be on. I got to keep everyone. Yeah. And someone had frosted Pop-Tarts out there, and I have not had a Pop-Tart, and I can't even tell you the last time. And I was like, that looks really good. So I took this Pop-Tart and I'm eating, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like, so this year when I was pacing, I was like, you guys, at mile 18, you gotta look. There might be Pop-Tarts on the course. So again, I think it's always important to be, because I think sometimes when people look at any profession, they think like, you have to be perfect and you never. And I'm like, I do my best. I think I feel very strongly that I want to model the behavior that I preach, right? But no one is perfect. And I'll tell you what, those frosted Pop-Tarts, and it's when I'm running the marathon and they have them on the course. I'm not going to go out and buy a box of them.
It's that one time I get to do it.
Really good.
Yeah.
The question, Rock, was in the middle of the race, like, what is the short-term goals? Like, because I'm always curious to like, I'm always curious to how people keep themselves, because it's such a long
And it's
race.
such a metaphor. Scott Fulton and I have actually talked about this of in our endurance events are actually really great metaphors for life, because there's always a point in an event that you say, I can't do this anymore. Like, and I have this whole conversation in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna drop out. Yep, I'm gonna drop out. Okay, no, like my kids, like, no, they'll still love me. Yeah, no, it'll be okay. Like, no, I'm like, is anyone going to be disappointed? No, I'm going to be, I'm going to, okay, I'm going to try to get to the next aid station. Okay, but the next aid station, I'm done. I am done. I'm done. And then you get there and you're like, well, maybe I can just get to that. And so in life, there's times where you're like, that is it. I am giving up like, I'm just giving up on this dream. I'm giving up on this, or I'm like, that's it. And then you say, well, let me see if I can dig deep and I can find the inner strength to just keep moving forward. And so I think that's where awesome. Like I can make, because I have so many mind conversations, and it's like, is this my mind talking or my body talking? And like oftentimes in life, when we're trying to do something, it's like, can we just like, our mind is creating a narrative that might not be reality, right?
Yes.
And that, being able to sort of say, okay, mind, thank you for that input. I'm just gonna put you on mute right now, and and keep moving forward. So that's what I try to bring those lessons when I do these events, into my own everyday life. And
that's awesome.
That can be helpful.
It's like you don't have to believe your thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not the truth.
Right.
Yeah. They're just a creation.
Yeah.
I say that, I created that thought, so maybe I can create a different thought.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that. That's such a great, even experience that you're sharing with us for all those that are out there listening about whatever they're up against in their, immediate life is like, just a little bit further, especially in an Ironman, man. What a great reference for your life.
Yeah.
Right.
And just a couple of weeks ago, my daughter and I went to Savannah, Georgia. There was, it was the first time they did this. It was called the Every Woman's Marathon. And it was all women. Well, men were allowed to do it, but it was probably 99% women, about 8,000 women. 42% of the participants, it was their first marathon. And a lot of times at these events, like they'll have cutoffs, like, because they have to close down roads and volunteers. Right. This race did not have a cutoff, or if it did, it was like, 10 or 12 hours. So people were able to walk. And my daughter and I finished, and then we went to the finish line to watch, some of the later finishers coming in. And there was someone that had like a GIF, and it was like, if you want to be inspired by humanity, go watch a marathon, because these were women who probably never thought in a million years they would do a marathon, and just the camaraderie and the support. And I don't care if you're the first person who crosses the finish line or the very last, you all accomplished the same exact goal. In fact, the people who finished last and time on their feet, like that's, and not giving up, like that's who really are the winners. And so it was just really a testimony to just what we are capable of doing, just believing in ourselves and having and the community there of support and people just cheering. And it was just the collective energy of, we can do this. Like we can do this. And we stayed a couple days later, and everyone, I still have my little bracelet on from it, because it was so inspiring that I haven't been able to take it off. It says Every Woman's Marathon. And then I've got this little bracelet that people were handing out. They made these like Every Woman's Marathon bracelets, and it just was everything that I believe in. And that, we're all striving to
in our own marathons.
And that we can keep moving forward and accomplish those goals. And as a lifestyle medicine physician and a human being myself, like I want that. That's what I want. I want to help elevate the health and well-being, for everyone that I come into contact with. And that looks very different for every single person. But how do we live a life of vitality, right? And be able to, whatever it is for you that you want to be able to do in life and experience in life and witness in life, that I feel like I want your health not to be a barrier to achieving whatever that is,
Wow,
awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And being outdoors will help you get there.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite quotes that I end presentations with is a quote from Hippocrates. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, who also was a doctor outdoors. I'm the OG. Hippocrates is like he's kind of a copycat, but so one of Hippocrates' quotes is, "If you're in a bad mood, go for a walk. If you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk." And then I add, preferably outdoors.
Right.
Okay, I want to ask just about a couple current health trends.
Yeah.
I get your take on these. Poe knows I love to ask guests about the carnivore diet. I have a fascination with it.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest, because it is like the exact 100% opposite of what I eat. And you and I and our our professional society, we purport the benefits of a plant-based diet, a particular type of whole food plant-based diet. And so that's the way I eat.
Yeah.
And so now you have a diet that's like completely the opposite and purporting health benefits. And I'm like, how can those both exist? Right. So anyway, I want to hear your take on it.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's start by being positive, right? What could potentially be the good things of a carnivore diet? Okay.
Nope. It eliminates processed food.
It eliminates processed food, right? Anytime you are shifting a dietary pattern and eliminating highly processed food, that's going to be a win.
A bonus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's probably.
Am I?
Yeah. No, and I will say this because I don't know how much your patients have experience with wearing continuous glucose monitors.
Some, yeah.
I imagine that when you are following a carnivore or a keto dietary pattern or carnivore keto, is that your blood glucose probably stays fairly flatlined, right? Because you're just not having,
not taking
sugar,
like a lot of carbs or a lot of natural like fruit, like glucose or fructose that comes from natural fruits. So some people mistakenly, in my opinion, will say, look at my glucose control, right? However, all we need to do is give you one, bite of apple and it's going to spike up because there's insulin resistance that's happening. So I think that the benefit, but again, there's many different dietary patterns that is, if we take away highly processed foods, we're going to be in a better position. The biggest issue I have is like we are learning so much about the gut microbiome, right? 70% of our immune system resides in the gut microbiome. An immune system is not just fighting off infection, it's inflammation that manifests as coronary artery disease, as chronic kidney disease, as insulin resistance, as dementia, as obesity. 70% of the immune system. And then 90% of the serotonin is produced, the happy hormone, in your gut microbiome. So how do we nurture the gut microbiome? Fiber. Where's fiber found?
Right.
Plants. So how are you nurturing that gut microbiome through a carnivore diet? And then when we look at, cardiovascular and, there's debates whether dietary cholesterol has any influence on our blood cholesterol and most likely it's saturated fat, right? That has a larger impact on our ApoB and our cholesterol profiles. And where is the saturated fat coming from? Well, probably from a lot of those sources in the carnivore diet. And then just diversity, right? We love Dr. Will Bolsiewicz, who's like our favorite gastroenterologist in lifestyle medicine field. And he wrote his whole book about fiber fueled, and he talks about eating the rainbow. And the diversity of your dietary pattern is really in plants is really what optimizes the gut microbiome. And he, really encourages people to try to get 30 different plants per week, which sounds like a lot until you think about like making a really yummy minestrone soup or like a really, healthful salad. And all of a sudden you've got 30 plants right there. So
I totally agree that the eating pattern you're describing is most healthful. My astonishment comes from the fact that this is a growing dietary trend.
Yeah.
That people are experiencing, perceived benefits. They're people report they feel better or they're, and certainly there's probably some weight loss. Because I've asked so many people about it. The people, I think it's an elimination diet. It's a very extreme elimination diet. So they're probably eliminating something that maybe they're reacting to.
And
I don't know, have you seen that?
Yes. And I think, Rock, I think that like short term, I think people can feel better. My question is long term, right? Like, let's check those lipid profiles in 6 months, 1 year, 2 year. Let's check those coronary calcium scores 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. You might not notice that physically, right? However, your biometrics are showing that. So we talk about, and again, our society and our brains, they want that short-term fix. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've lost weight. Oh my gosh, my blood sugar is better. Maybe even some people, I think, like inflammation, feels better. But is that really the carnivore? Or is that getting rid of the other crap that was inflammatory? My concern is long term down the road.
Sure.
I just don't think that this is a long term beneficial dietary pattern.
Dietary pattern. Yeah, I'm astonished at the things I see now. Like,
well, and people
memes.
People want good news about their bad habits, and so there's someone's telling me to eat steak all the time. Yeah. Great. Someone's telling me to eat pats of butter. Okay. To me, that's, that personally does not interest me. However, that
I hear you.
There's a sector that sounds really good.
And then the other health trend, it's really, are the newer class of weight loss drugs and the GLP-1 agonists. And what's your experience been with those and your sort of view on them?
Yeah. So again, I have seen and I have prescribed GLPs, right? Because there is an indication. And just like I say with, quick fix diets, these GLPs they're working. People are losing weight. However, I want to look at the long-term impact of this. And my belief is that you need to also change lifestyles, right? If you are using GLPs, we want to be working on getting healthier, more plant-forward dietary patterns. We want to encourage people to move their bodies more. We want to encourage restorative sleep, positive social connection, getting outdoors. Nothing's a miracle drug, right? I think there's a place for this. However, it's just, there's no easy button in anything. And whether people, decide, I just don't like feeling nauseous all the time, I want to come off of it. If we haven't empowered and educated and supported individuals on how to engage healthy lifestyle behaviors, like the weight's coming back. We've seen that. Or if someone can't afford them anymore because their insurance stopped covering it, or it's now on shortage and insurance.
They change jobs.
Yeah, they change jobs, right.
Employer doesn't cover it.
We can't ignore the fact that this really, people are, losing weight. And for the first time, I've had patients who have struggled with binge eating disorder, who are in their 60s and 70s. And they've gone on GLPs because maybe they're had type 2 diabetes and they qualified for this insurance-wise. And to hear their stories of I can actually think about something during my day rather than food. I was a prisoner to my binge eating disorder, and I've created space in my life. So that's, that can be really transformational, or just, improving self-esteem. I've never felt better in my body, but we know again that these are not miracle drugs. And this is why now more than ever, lifestyle medicine and what we empower and advocate for is so needed, because there's going to continue to be these medications out there, right? The GLPs, the GLP with the GIP, there's going to, be a pill form. It's just, we're going to have better access to these, and they can be really powerful and beneficial. And we need to do the lifestyle behaviors as well, alongside.
Poe, I think you had that experience, right? When you were talking to me about, and Melissa, I think this has come up, the food noise goes down,
Yeah.
right? What was your experience like, Poe?
Yeah, it definitely helps with food noise.
Yeah.
I would say that when I did, I think it was Ozempic. I think it was and yeah, you just didn't.
Because you were taking it for your diabetes. That's
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was prescribed for diabetes.
Yeah.
And yeah, the food noise was completely like, it just wasn't there. And
Yeah.
the way how your patients describe, like you kind of have this sort of liberty from the
Right.
food. Like,
Right.
you don't feel like you're craving things throughout
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, oh, I'm not really hungry. So you're drinking more water. You know what I mean? And you're absolutely right. I feel like, this is just a bonus that the real, meat and I shouldn't say meat, the potatoes it comes from the walking, right?
Yeah.
The movement that you have is actually is really where you get the benefits. Cause now you're like, man, and then you eat according to like cause you're not, you actually, I felt full too after eating. Like it wasn't, like I had to keep eating something, you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. I think there is a place for those who are having the hunger noise. It does like completely subdues the hunger noise.
Yeah.
And it's a tool. I think what you're getting at, Melissa, is it's a tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a potentially powerful tool, but if it's not used in the context of a healthy lifestyle, then as soon as they go off the drug,
Right.
Oh yeah.
then that you no longer have any support for the changes.
Yeah, and my hope would be that utilizing the GLP alongside lifestyle behaviors, and when you're losing weight and your arthritis is better, now you're able to walk more, and you're like, oh, I actually like walking, right? So, or I'm not, craving these really unhealthy foods. I'm going to learn how to cook, and I'm going to, take a better interest in that we reinforce these other lifestyle behaviors that then that can be more habit forming. And as we, because I think that most people would agree, like, we don't want this to be, well, the pharmaceutical companies want this to be a lifelong medication.
Right.
Like, most of us would agree, like, this is a tool. We don't want this to be lifelong.
Yeah.
We want this to be a stepping stone. And as we, build up some other lifestyle behaviors, then be able to slowly, like, wean you off of this, medication that you're not dependent upon it, so that we've got you to a place where now we can really emphasize the power of lifestyle, knowing that 80 to 90% of chronic diseases are lifestyle driven.
Yeah. It's a very small percentage of people who lose a significant amount of weight who then, I don't know the exact statistic, but after 1 year, like a very small percent actually maintain their weight loss. And then if you look at the behaviors that people who do maintain their weight loss, it's that they've figured out a way to eat in a sustained lower calorie deficit. Usually that's because they're eating more fiber, more lower calorie density foods. They're moving their body regularly.
Yeah.
We know that helps maintain weight loss.
Right.
But are there other things that you see? Like, what would you want someone to learn while they're on the drug?
Well, I think it's also important to know that we are as healthy or as unhealthy as the 5 people that we spend the most time with, right? So we talk about, in our line of work, I'm always saying, like, genes are not our destiny. Genes are not our destiny, and epigenetics. And so maybe, and I'm just going to do like a hypothetical, scenario of you've been on, individual's been on a GLP, they've lost weight. They're like, oh, I've really my goal is to, maybe I can walk a 5K now. You know what? I'm going to go buy some good walking or running shoes at the local running store. And I'm going to ask them, like, do you guys have groups? Okay. You know what? On Saturday, I'm going to go to that group and I'm going to go for a walk with, I belong to this, well, it's not even a membership, but I go to this thing Wednesday night and we have walkers and runners and everyone is an out and back. So you can do as much or as little as you want. And there's this whole community and the whole community is vested on doing something healthy, right? And so that connection, how can we reinforce connection as a tool to help us, live a healthy, happier life of vitality? So I think, there's no judgment at all, but I think that, when I look at my closest friends, guess what? We like to go running together. Yeah. We like to go hiking together. We like to go skiing together. And, we are doing healthy behaviors because
You're taking in the phytocides together.
Yes, we are taking in the phytoncides. We're inhaling.
There's something, you're inhaling the same medicine.
Right, but the people we surround ourselves by are like how we're gonna kind of end up behaving. So I choose wisely, because it has a tremendous power.
Or get those people excited about movement in a way. Maybe that. Michelle, when she came on, she talked about what just you said, like people look at movement as a chore or exercise as a chore, and we should be reframing it as movement. And how can you get your family involved? How can you get your kids involved? Like, I love that. Oh my God, it's so amazing that you're going to be running your 12th Boston Marathon with your daughter. Yeah. Like, that is like
super cool.
Super cool. Yeah. By the way. Yeah. No, I mean, but to your point, if they're not, I love what you said, like go and just ask, like, is there like at the running store, they'll know, is there a walking group? Yeah. Is there, or
I even have some older patients that are avid bird watchers. And when I talk about movement and nature, I have like a whole list of things that you can do, because people are like, I don't like to exercise. I'm like, do you like to move your body? Well, I don't know. So I have this whole list of things and bird watching, I'm convinced, I'm like, brilliant. You're outdoors. You're doing this mindfulness practice. You're walking because you got to go walk around to look for more birds. There's bird watching groups. And so I had these older, they were in their 70s. They were retired. And these women were in these bird watching groups, and they would go they would do road trips, right? Well, so-and-so birds are migrating to this area of the state. So like we're going there on Saturday, and you journal down and you take pictures. And so there's lots of ways to not even realize that you're exercising, right? That you can, even the geo-tracking, I know that involves like phones, but you would see people who were like out walking around, trying to find whatever they were called.
The cache.
Yes. So there's creative ways that we can fool ourselves that we're moving our bodies and doing something beneficial, but it's just fun. We're just interested in, and it's a hobby.
That's true. Yeah. We stop looking at like movement as the goal.
Yeah.
And look at connection and experience as the goal. That's what I'm hearing.
Curiosity, right? I think so much about life and living a fulfilled life is to remain curious. Remain curious.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you said something about having fun too. Like I think as we get older, we forget to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, that's also part of the human experience, right? It's just having some fun with your kids or your own fun, whatever that looks like, that includes being outdoors.
Yeah.
Other than being inside.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we used our final question at the beginning, but I thought of a new final question, Poe. Unless, Poe, do you have any other like burning questions you want to ask?
No, I think we covered everything, Melissa.
Yeah, no, so many cool things we learned, but I want to ask, like, how do you make your own life a health feast?
Yeah. So I, have some, I would call them non-negotiables, but they're just my habits that I do every day without, not that I don't think about them, but I take away that conversation in my head. I think so many times we can, if we make it too complicated, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? So I always make my bed. Okay. Like the bed is made. Well, actually my husband and I, whoever gets out of bed last has to make the bed. So that is a reason to jump out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, get early. Yeah. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
They always say like accomplish one thing. And then, I move my body every day. Like I just do. And unless I'm traveling or I'm sick or, I'm not going to be silly, but that's just something that I do. For me, most days it works for me to do it, in the morning, just because it's, I don't have enough time to make up excuses. And most days I'm going outdoors, and cause I'm the biggest wuss, if I have to go pump gas in my car and it's cold out, I'm like, I don't want to get out of my car. But if it's first thing in the morning and I haven't really been outside yet, I'm like, well, I'm going outside. And then, I fuel my body. I think about, my food is fuel, right? And how to nourish my body. And when I became board certified in lifestyle medicine, again, I want to practice what I preach. And that means, I like to use the terms like plant strong, plant forward. plant slant. It doesn't have to be perfect, but really fueling my body with the nutrients and energy that it needs to give me energy. I'm a practicing physician, and I want to be present for myself. I want to be present for my patients. I'm married. Got a great husband. We've been together for 28 years. We make each other laugh. We respect each other, right? So, and we support each other. He is not in medicine. And so, he shares his business tips with me. I share my lifestyle medicine tips with him. So I think that just being in a really good partnership, that we're best friends first and foremost. And our kids,
is he a runner?
He dabbles in running. So he grew up as a soccer player. So his mindset of running is like punishment. So he's still like, I don't see how you can enjoy running. Like this was always punishment after soccer practice if like we didn't have a good practice. So
he gets to shift the mindset there.
Right.
Like, I get to.
But it's interesting because he goes to the gym every day. He loves to lift weights. But during COVID, when all the gyms were closed, he became a runner. I'm like, I think you're a runner. So yeah. So
nice.
he doesn't, I wouldn't say that he enjoys it as much as I do, but yes, yeah. So I think just moving our bodies and really, I haven't had a perfect life by any means. And there's some chapters that you'd go, can we take that out of the next version? And I think back to those times where things were not good at all. And, but I can remember like running in the morning and some mornings, it's so early that I have a headlamp and, this time of year the days are short, and I was blasting some tunes and I was like sobbing and crying and singing out loud, this is my fight song. Like it's so memorable to me, but that was a non-negotiable. I was like, even though like life is really crappy right now, I'm going out for a run. I'm going out for a run because that's the only way that I'm going to get through the rest of the day. And I need to be present for my kids were younger. I need to be present for my patients. So I think that doing the best that you can on any given day, and maybe that is, I know Michelle Seeger talks about this, like you don't have to move your body for half an hour. Maybe you've just got 2 minutes of the day that you can move your body. That's good, right? Maybe you only have like time to just write one maybe not so crappy thing in your gratitude journal. Maybe, you're the best you can do is you do have to get takeout food tonight, but maybe instead of McDonald's, I'm going to get a Subway veggie sandwich. Like doing the best that you can do, in any given circumstance, and just be a lover of life. Like I'm really grateful for the life, that I have, and, the people that are in it, the animals that are in it, the nature that's in it, and lifestyle medicine for me has really been a gift as well. I got board certified in 2019, so I was 49. So when people talk about, you're 49, your career's, you're on the down slope. I have been on the up slope ever since getting board certified in lifestyle medicine, and the collegiality, the support, the excitement, coming off our conference that we had just a month ago, it's incredible. And so I'm 54 and I feel like I have got a whole runway ahead of me of opportunity and engagement, and it's really exciting. So I'm very, very grateful.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa, for being here with us today and giving the time. And this has been a very, wholesome conversation for me. And my experience with you has just been like, wow, this is like a very wholesome person. And I really, appreciate that. And also like taking this outdoors kind of mindset of like, that's also medicine, or that's also some type of therapy for myself. So I really appreciate that today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. Really appreciate. I'm so glad I saw you at the conference, and I think I was like, just book now, because I don't know. Yeah. You said, I will. Yeah. And you did. And so here we are. And for our listeners, if they want to follow you online, or we'll put those links.
Yeah, so I'm super active on LinkedIn. I do some impromptu videos all the time. And so I'm Melissa Sundermann on LinkedIn. And then I do have 2 Instagram handles. I am at Motivator Melissa and at the Doctor Outdoors. So that's the big place that you can find me. And the exciting news is when I was at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I signed a book contract. So get ready next year. The working title right now, maybe it'll change, is Dr. Outdoors Guide to Nature and Lifestyle Medicine. So,
oh, wow. Cool.
Yes. That's been a sort of on my, maybe one day. And so many things in life, it's just like, dip your toe in and just go, get into that challenge zone.
Cold plunge.
If you would have told me.
when you're doing the book tour and you're making all your media appearances, we'll have you come back.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I'd love to learn more about that book and how it comes to be. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Super exciting.
Thank you.
All right. To our listeners, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review at where you get your podcasts, if that's your way to support the podcast. And we will see you back here next time. Until then, live well and rock on. And we do our requisite fist bump to the camera. Boom. All right. Boom. All right.